Hello everybody, Clayton here at etrailer.com. Here at etrailer.com we install, test, and review a lot of different products to help you as a customer make a more educated decision for your vehicle. Today I have a 2014 Thor Freedom Elite Motorhome we'll be taking a look at, and I'll show you how to install the Roadmaster Reflex front steering stabilizer kit for Class C and Class A motorhomes. This is what our steering stabilizer is going to look like installed. Our steering stabilizer is going to help keep the motorhome straight whenever we're going down the road. Whether it's windy or we're getting past or passing an 18-wheeler or anything like that, this is just going to help keep our motorhome going straight down the roadway. It is a really nice thing to upgrade for your RV. It just makes it steer a lot nicer as well. Feels a little bit more like our cars. We can now go ahead and hit our test course with all of our factory components. To start, we're going to hit our altering bumps. This is kind of going to represent any potholes or bumps in the road, anything like that. Then we'll go to our straight bumps, and that's going to represent a curb or speed bumps or anything like that. So we'll kind of start going over our bumps. Now we're not going to feel too much here because the sway bar and steering stabilizer are going to do a lot more for left to right. But we will be able to see how much it tightens up our steering. As you can see, our steering wheel jerks quite a bit going over these altering bumps. Now we can hit our straight bumps. After our bumps course, we'll jump over to our slalom course. We're just going to do some quick right and left motions just to feel that action in our sway bar and in our stock steering dampener. It is pretty loose, feels like a big motorhome should. So we'll do one more pass on our test course here. There is quite a bit of body roll. It doesn't feel very tight. Like I said before, it feels like a big motorhome should. We're now ready to go back over our bumps course with our steering stabilizer installed. It feels a lot better than it did before. It feels pretty tight. Again, having this installed isn't going to make that big of a difference over bumps. We're going to feel it more with that left to right motion. Over at our slalom course, we can now do some left and right turns and kind of feel how responsive the motorhome is after doing our upgrade. Now it feels a lot tighter, feels a lot more like a car, like I've already said. Just a lot more responsive. There's hardly any body roll, which is pretty impressive for something this big. Our spring is going to be made out of a tempered steel, so it's going to hold up for a long time while looking good and functioning well. Whenever our actuator gets pulled out or pushed in, this compresses, smoothing our ride. Now our brackets on both sides are going to be made out of steel, so they're going to be really strong for a long time. They have a nice black powder coat finish to resist rust and corrosion over time as well. Along with our steering stabilizer, another upgrade you might want to consider is a front sway bar. That's just going to help with the sway of our RV as well. And in terms of installation, getting our steering stabilizer put on really isn't that bad. We just have to take off our stock dampener and replace our brackets. We don't need any special tools, and we don't have to do any drilling. So we've gone over the features, talked a little bit about installation. I'll go ahead and show you how to get yours installed now. To start our installation, we want to remove our stock steering dampener. It's going to be located right here behind our sway bar and on front of our tie rod. We're going to have two U-bolts here with hardware on the back. We'll just get that taken off. And over here on the left side, we have a bracket that mounts to our frame rail. We're going to use an 18mm socket to take the front of our stabilizer off. I do suggest grabbing a breaker bar, maybe spraying it down with some penetrating fluid before, just to get that bolt loose. We can now take these U-bolts off, holding on our bracket to the tie rod. We're going to be using a 13mm socket for the hardware on the backside. With our hardware out of this U-bolt, we can go ahead and repeat that same process for our other U-bolt holding on our lower bracket. You want to make sure to hold your steering dampener by hand, that way it doesn't drop on your head once you take this U-bolt out. We can now take out our lower bracket, take our U-bolt off of our tie rod, then move up to our upper bracket. Our next step is to remove our dampener, we want to grab an 18mm socket and wrench and just take these off. Now set these off to the side. We can now start taking the hardware out of our bracket. There's going to be 3 13mm bolts, 2 on the side of our frame rail and 1 on the bottom. And set that off to the side, and our next 2 are going to be located right up there on the inside of our frame rail. Before we take that last bolt out, we want to make sure we have a good hold on our bracket, that way we don't drop it ourselves. We can now remove our old bracket. We can now go ahead and install our lower bracket. We're going to be adding 2 bolts through the sides here and 1 through the bottom. We want to make sure that this flat side is facing towards the front of the vehicle. We're going to add our bolts provided with a flat washer and a lock washer through the bottom, and then 2 on the sides. Slide it up into place and start our new hardware on the back side. We'll grab another bolt, slide it in through these holes here, and get both of them started as well. We want to make sure to leave this on here loosely installed until we get the rest of our stabilizer put on, and then we can make any adjustments that we need to. We're now ready to add our other bracket here to our tie rod located right here. We want the outer part of our bracket facing the center or the driver's side, like so. Then we can take our U-bolt. We're going to slide that over the back of our tie rod through our bracket. And we're going to add a flat washer and a nylon lock nut on each stud of our U-bolt. We can now grab our steering stabilizer. When we install it, we want our coiled end facing the center of the motorhome like this. And this is why we left everything loosely installed. It's going to be a whole lot easier to come back and tighten everything down with it in the right position. So we're going to take these off, put it through our bracket over here, just like so. And we can slide our other bracket out, take off our nut here, slide the end of our stabilizer through our bracket, like so. Reinstall our bushing, washer, and flange nut. Then we come back and tighten everything down. Before we tighten down our steering stabilizer, we want to make sure it's not going to contact our tie rod anywhere. And right here, whenever we turn, it will contact the tie rod down here on the back side. So we're just going to lift up like so, tighten it down here, and you want to make sure to clear that radiator hose right above it. We want to make sure to tighten down our U-bolts evenly, and we don't want to over tighten them either and put a dent in our tie rod. It is going to be kind of hard to get to this U-bolt nut that's between our stabilizer and our bracket. If you take the wrench and kind of slide it in from the tie rod side and pull down on the stabilizer spring, you'll be able to drop that wrench in just like this. Again, you just kind of have to be patient working around this. It is going to be kind of hard to get around this tie rod and our front sway bar. And don't forget that you want to come and tighten down every bolt evenly. You can now come back and tighten down the rest of our hardware. I'm going to be using a 15mm socket on our stabilizer and a 13mm socket on the bracket that we put on the frame rail. After getting our steering stabilizer installed, we want to find a nice flat parking lot, and then we actually want to try to drive in a straight line. We're going to let off the steering wheel. We want to make sure that we're not pulling one way or another, and in this case we're not. So we know we're good. We don't have to go back and adjust our steering stabilizer. But if it's pulling left or right, you might have to go back and kind of adjust that U-bolt bracket and try to get it as straight as possible, and then take it out, test it, and if you keep getting the same issues, just fine-tune it until you're going straight. With our hardware all tightened down, we're ready to hit the road. That's going to do it for our look at and installation of the Roadmaster Reflex steering stabilizer on our 2014 Thor Freedom Elite Motorhome.